Reagan, and today I'm here to do my top 5 books I want to read this summer. There's something extra special about creating a seasonal TBR for myself. It really allows me to create something that I love to do, which is kind of a medium short-term set of goals for myself. It allows me to think 3 months in the future and be like, what are some things I really want to be sure to read that I haven't been reading recently, or something I want to read more of just in general. That is exactly what these seasonal TBR videos allow me to do, and particularly summer is a lot of fun because I don't know, maybe I'm still in the mindset of like summer break, which I 100% do not get anymore at all, which is sad. But that doesn't mean the feeling of summer break hasn't left me. I don't know, I just feel like I have like endless amounts of time in the summer to get all of my reading done. All the reading dreams can come true. So anyway, without further ado, let's go through the books I really hope to get to this summer. Now, I kind of have 2 distinct themes for this video. I want to read more fantasy, haha, not surprising, but more adult fantasy this summer, and I particularly want to read more historical fiction as well. And some of the books kind of are a little bit of both, which is always a great thing. But the first book I really want to get to is Wake of Vultures by Leila Bowen. This just sounds like a very fast-paced and strange adult fantasy story that just kind of hooked me with the synopsis. I picked it up last summer in my favorite Austin bookstore, and I just have yet to pick it up. But it's my understanding that this is like a Wild Wild West vampire and vampire hunter story. It just sounds like it's a mashup of a lot of very interesting genres that I'm really curious to see how that shakes out in this novel. And it has really great reviews, and I just feel like this is going to be like a very high impact book. Next 2 books I want to read fall in a similar category, and that is historical fiction, particularly World War II historical fiction. I love that genre. I love reading books set in that time period, and it has been far too long since I've read a book set in that space. The first book I really hope to get to this summer is Salt to the Sea by Ruta Sepetys. I get comments, I feel like, in every video asking me to read this book, and I know I need to read this book. I love this author. This sounds like an incredibly compelling story that follows a shipwreck that is apparently more tragic and more deadly than the Titanic that very few people know about, and we follow 4 perspectives of 4 different people who are on this ship basically fleeing their own country. I now also own this in a paperback edition, so like it needs to happen, and I'm very excited to pick this up. Also really want to read The Narrow Road to the Deep North by Richard Flanagan. This won the Man Booker, I want to say like 3 years ago, and this just kind of gives me To All the Light I Cannot See feels. I mean, obviously this book is going to be very different, but like a deep, harrowing historical fiction tale set in the time period that book is just really appeals to me. And obviously this is a very lauded and rewarded book that I've owned for a long time. This is set in a Japanese prisoner of war camp, and we follow a main character that's kind of trying to keep himself and everyone around him alive and save them from starvation and cholera and all of those things, but he's also reflecting on his life and a lot of the decisions he made leading up to this point. Again, this won the Man Booker. It's a very popular and apparently amazing book, and I just feel like it's like a perfect summer read. I also love novels like this. It's time. You know what I mean? It's time. Next book I'm dying to get to, and that is The Girl in the Tower by Catherine Arden. This is the sequel to The Bear and the Nightingale, which I read recently, I think last month. So this is definitely not like, oh, I haven't read this yet, how dare you, Reagan, but more that I just want to continue to stay on top of this series because I loved it so much. This is a deeply rich historical fantasy set in what I want to say is the 15th or 16th century of Russia. We follow our main character Vasya, who has to use her wits and magic to essentially try to save the town and her family. The first book was wonderful and I absolutely loved it, and I feel like the second book is only going to be better as we follow Vasya as she kind of encounters new adventures and begins to learn more about her powers and herself. I'm very intrigued. Next, I want to read Into the Bright Unknown by Rae Carson. This is the 3rd and final book to the what is this series called? This is the 3rd book to the Walk on Earth as Strangers series. This is a really amazing historical fantasy novel set during the Gold Rush era. Rae Carson is one of my favorite authors. She writes incredible YA stories, and I absolutely love the first 2 books in this series, and I really need to get to it and finish the last book. This story is full of a lot of very interesting and dynamic characters set in a time period that I personally haven't read a lot of books set in, and I really feel like they explore a lot of very interesting social and economic changes and also just like horrible things that are happening during this time period. And I just found the first 2 books to be riveting, and I think the magic is very interesting. We follow a main character that can sense gold in the ground, which, as you can imagine, makes her incredibly valuable in the gold rush era. I, again, loved the first 2 books, and I need to finish this series. And the last book I want to read this summer, I feel like, is the book. You know what I mean? This is like, if I don't read any of the other ones and just read this one, I will still be very satisfied with myself. And that is The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. This is a book I have been planning and meaning to read for what feels like my entire life, but now it finally feels right. I look at it, I say, yes, I want to read you, I'm excited to read you, I'm ready to read you, and that is what's gonna happen. I plan on reading this soon, starting this month actually, probably not finishing it this month, but probably reading this book throughout the entirety of summer due to its enormous size. But yeah, I just can't wait to finally pick this book up. I feel like I'm gonna love it, which always is a good feeling going into a novel. Alrighty guys, those are the top books I hope to get to this summer. Let me know down below some summer reading plans that you have, as I would love to know, and I'll see you guys soon with another video soon. Goodbye!